Welcome back to K&L Farms. I'm Ken. I hope this video finds you well. And on the previous or the start of this series, I'm kind of doing this series on rebuilding the greenhouse. I'll leave up in the top the beginning of this series. This is probably video number 4 on this subject matter. But there was some questions asked, and one question was, well, how much snow do you guys actually get? Because remember, at the beginning of this greenhouse, the roof collapsed, and the roof is all removed, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But I left a comment or replied to that comment, and it was we get approximately 4 feet. Now, there's some explanation in that, is that we get much more than that over the course of a year. So it'll snow, 6 inches, a foot or something, and then that snow comes off. And what I meant was we get 4 feet total on the ground. We get 4 feet total approximate. Now back when, I don't remember how old I was, but in '79, in this area, my grandparents actually lived, let's say 20 miles from where my house is now. And my grandparents are both gone now, but my grandfather, I think, was 5'8", and I remember being in the upstairs building of or second floor of their house, and he was digging a path from the house to the barn to feed animals, and all I could see out of that path was the top of the snow shovel. So that was much more than 4 feet, but on an average it's 4 feet. Okay, and then the other thing was, well, on my channel I've themed a lot of buildings and doing a lot of building, and they're like, well, why did the greenhouse come to the top of the surface, or why is that the most pertinent thing you have to do work on right now? Well, and I'll explain that. A couple things. One is my wife, the greenhouse. My wife enjoys the greenhouse, and she can't utilize it right now, of course. And she asked me after it collapsed. She said, "Well, when are you going to get to building it? When are you going to get back to repairing it?" And I was like, "Well, when it comes to the top of the list," because at that time I had a whole bunch of other stuff. And then I got to thinking, well, homesteaders or preppers, I think they're one and the same thing. They think on the same lines, but if things go bad, which might, how do I sustain myself? Can I sustain myself if I put a heating unit in this? Can I grow a vegetable in the dead of winter, even with and keep the roof off? And the roof is going to be much steeper, which we'll go over here in just a minute. But that's kind of the basis of the whole channel and my whole lifetime is trying to sustain my own life and not needing assistance from other individuals. So let's get past that, and that's why this came to the top of the list. As well, we don't have any real way to make a vegetable, and with the way the inflation is and the cost of a vegetable or cost of anything, I'd much rather buy a seed for cents and then grow it myself, and that's why this came to the top. Now I'm going to go over what I did a little bit here real briefly, and then I'll catch up later on to explain more, but I'm hoping I can explain it. Now, on the previous videos, this roof was collapsed. It's all been removed, and it's just a aluminum frame and plexiglass type material. Removed all that, and I explained when I removed that I was going to put a column, which I'm sure you can see on the frame. Let me go to the back. You can see it on the back better. Outside post, main ridge post, that's 12 feet tall. This ridge post is 12 feet tall. External posts are 8 feet tall. And then we came, and you can probably see this box. I built a little box, and we're going to town today to buy a door, and we started out, well, we'd like to have a double French door. Well, we can't tell. One, the French door is terribly expensive, and two is that well, that's 60 or 63. Well, that's going to take out most of the structure, and we didn't want to do that, so we came back to a standard door. Wide entry door is 36. This frame is currently built to 50 inches, so I can get a door and then stub out, kind of frame out to fit this door, because there's one wheelbarrow my wife likes using, and I think that footprint on that wheelbarrow needs an opening of 33, so we're thinking about a 36-inch door. And now the top of this, if you see the top of that ridge cap, or the main main header post on the other end, I've got to put the header post up, and that's going to be 12 feet on one end, 8 feet on the other end, approximately a 6-foot span between that main post, rafter over here, rafter on this side, and I don't know what the pitch is. The pitch on this side, which is still undetermined right now, but the pitch means your roof is, you know, you can make a pitch, and it's what drop per foot in inches is it. So 612 is 6 inches per foot. It drops 6 inches in 1 foot of travel. Okay, and that's kind of the standard now. On my homestead, we have buildings, and we have buildings from 512, that's the pitch, to 1012. And the reason I did that is to see over the time how the snow reacts to everything, and everything's got a tin roof on it, including this won't have, it'll be that clear plexiglass through this. But then I know what break actually the snow acts correctly, breaks and comes off. It's kind of a big thing when you got 4 feet of snow on the ground and you're looking for another foot or 2 feet. You don't want that much snow load, which what happens to this roof. That's what happened, is there was too much snow on this roof and it didn't break off, the snow didn't come off, and it collapsed. Okay, but let's go back to right now, 12 feet at the main ridge, 8 feet, well, let's go with 8 feet, and I can explain that later, but 8 foot, that makes it pretty steep. I don't know what that pitch is, but it's pretty steep. But every building I've ever built in like a pole building is you can make that pitch what you want, and you run that main pole wild, and you run that main pole. Everything I've ever built is usually a foot to 2 feet taller, and that's what you use for your rigging to pull the rafters up on. And then after you get the roof built, then you cut it to whatever height. So I don't know what the pitch is going to be on this roof yet. Okay, on the beginning of this video, I was trying to explain, and since I'm a visual person, I have to see it actually to learn what's going on. I showed this header. I went ahead and built it, some of it, so you can actually see it. I built this header up here, and see that's 12 feet tall. And when I said wild, this is between the top of this rafter. Sorry about that. From that rafter up is wild. I'll have to cut that off, and I changed the pitch on it because at the beginning of the video I showed I had 512 to 1012 pitches. Anything above a 612, I fall off and I don't bounce as well as I used to. So I'm gonna, here in just a minute, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, probably three or four questions, and you can respond in the comments below. But that's what this greenhouse is gonna look like. It actually came out, I made this rig, which I've explained pitch previously on the video. I made this pitch 612, and so I came down to 10.6 on the top and 8.6 on the bottom, makes it a 612 pitch. That's kind of thick, but anyway, that's what I was doing. And I'll spin the camera here in just a minute, and I'll ask you a couple questions. Okay, the questions are around, if you go to the grocery store and you buy a pound of hamburger, some oversight assures that when you buy a pound of hamburger, you get a pound of hamburger. You go to the gas station and you get a gallon of gas, there's an oversight, at least in the state I'm in, that assures you get a gallon of gas. And that's where the saying actually comes in. There's two sayings, bait and switch or false advertisement. The question comes around, how come then, and you can say in my lifetime I've seen it, you go to the hardware store, you go to any box hardware store, and you go buy a 2x4, used to be 2 inches by 4 inches, that was how they labeled a 2x4. You buy a 2x4 now, and this is a 2x4 I purchased, it's 3.5 by an inch and a half. How come nobody's actually said, that's false advertisement, that's bait and switch, this is not a 2x4, this is no longer a 2x4. How they get away with that? You answer me in the comments. That was number one. Number two is, so you got a whole bunch of illegal aliens. You got the White House saying, the Biden camp saying the border is secure. You got a whole bunch of illegal aliens running up to New York and doing whatever they're doing, killing, raping, whatever they're doing. How come nobody's actually said that the Biden administration is somewhat responsible and they're aiding and abetting in these crimes? How come nobody's actually ever done that? How come nobody's ever actually asked that question? Excluding me, because I ask the question almost every day. Seems like you would be charged, the Biden campaign, whoever falsified that information, you would be charged with aiding and abetting a crime. Because that's the thing. I mean, I would get charged with that. Normal people, working class people would get charged with that. How come that hasn't come up yet? But anyway, that was the other question. And I got to show you what I got going on.